Welcome back. If you are just joining, you are watching Daily Politics on Trust TV. Do well to follow the conversation across our social platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and watch us live on YouTube. At least 6 civilians were killed after a Nigerian army jet mistakenly bombed a village while pursuing armed gangs in northern Nigeria's Katsina state. Local residents reported on Sunday that the incident took place on Saturday in Zaka village, Safana district, where a military jet dropped a bomb on a group of huts at the village's outskirts, according to 3 witnesses. The airstrike came after armed bandits attacked a police base in the area, killing 2 policemen and a vigilante. Meanwhile, the Nigeria Air Force says it has commenced investigations into the allegations leveled against it that some innocent villagers were killed during its operation. The force maintained that its airstrike only neutralized several bandits who had launched an onslaught against personnel of police mobile force and Katsina State Community Watch Corps personnel. Daily Trust reports that at least 7 innocent civilians were part of those killed. This is in a separate report. And here in the studio to help us put context in this, we have a retired Wing Commander, Dr. Musa Salmanu. Welcome to our studio.
Thank you for having me.
And then maybe condolences first to citizens of Katsina State, citizens of Safana.
Indeed, condolences to all Nigerians, because when such incidences do happen, it's regrettable, and the death of one person is enough, and not to talk about the numbers that we're talking about. And it shows more than ever that the need for us to do diligence in some of these operations and so on. If you put, so to give it context, like you're saying, if you put side by side the release from the Nigerian Air Force and the allegations or the information coming from the communities, you find out that there are certain questions or certain things that will make it clearer. If the release from the Nigerian Air Force seems to be something that is called a collateral damage. Now, but what we're hearing from the communities seems to be something like a mistaken bombing. The 2 terms, though highly...
Collateral damage.
Yes, and mistaken bombing. Now, the 2 terms, whereas they are very similar and in fact do overlap, they are slightly different.
Okay.
In collateral damage, the intent is key and the action itself. In collateral damage, it's an identified target, it's a legitimate target. All precautions, necessary precautions were taken, and it's in taking out the object or the target, then because of either civilian targets being within the vicinity or for one reason or the other, civilians get harmed. So that is in spite and despite all efforts made to ensure that there is no civilian harm, that occurs. That is collateral damage. And usually it's done, already there is a military target, or there is a military necessity. There's a target identified, like I said earlier, and it's a military target. That's a legitimate target. And in the process of attacking that target, then a civilian, for one reason or the other, comes in. The other is whereas there is a target, which could be legitimate also, but however, in terms of, due to certain factors, either faulty intelligence, either weather or human factor and so on, that target that is attacked is not a legitimate target. That means it's mistaken to be a legitimate target. So in this instance, so we have 2 slightly varying or narratives. But whatever it is, like I said earlier on, there is it's an unfortunate situation when there is loss of life, and my condolences, or our condolences, go to the families that lost their loved ones, and indeed all Nigerians. When we lost a Nigerian, or when anybody is lost, it's a loss to humanity. So there is, therefore, keeping all that aside, that's whether it's mistaken or whether it's collateral damage. Yes. It shows the number, recurrence of these incidents is something, or such similar incidences is something that is worrisome, no doubt about that. And I'm happy that the Chief of Air Staff said that there are going to be investigations, has already sanctioned investigations to go on. I don't know if I should go forward on that, but my problem with that is that we've heard a lot about issues of investigations being undertaken. I tell my colleagues that are still wearing uniform that it's not enough to conduct these investigations. It's not enough to, within the military cycle, to find out that so-so fault or so-so thing was done. What needs to be done is to ensure more transparency in that, in the sense that let the outcomes, to as much as possible, be communicated to the people, because the generality of the citizens or public are interested in the outcomes of this, because it's an incident that happened involving people. It's there, it's on record. When these investigations are conducted, when the results or whatever happened is identified, the military or the security forces should be able to say, this is what we found out, and these are the remedial these are the remedial actions that we're doing. And if people are found culpable, or people are found to have done or did not do something, what were the actions taken? That will help in building confidence. That will help to say that when these things happen, a lot of actions are taken.
Yes, and someone will say this Savannah incident is one incident too many. This year alone, I think this is probably the third, from January to this moment. And if you put the numbers of similar occurrences last year, it becomes disturbing, because it's not only Nigeria that is involved in this kind of armed conflicts, but you rarely, it happens everywhere, but then it's once in a generation, maybe once in 10 years or 20 years, that, okay, civilian targets were smashed by, military jet and all that. Wing Commander, where are we getting it wrong? Is it that we are deploying some of this heavy equipment? I mean, I'm referring to using, jets instead of using the boots on ground to attend to some of these issues. So there is that. There's the issue of a military fights with what they have to start with. When you're faced with a situation like we have, there are weapons of choice, weapons that left to the ideal situation, this is what you use. However, there is the weapons or the weaponry that you have in your armory. So you make the best use of what you have. So there's that fact that sometimes matching weapon to target could be a problem, because if you are supposed to have low yield bombs or munitions, or that could have precision guided munitions and so on, if you don't have that, or you don't have enough of that, perhaps you improvise. Now, if you improvise, the likelihood that, because they are high yield bombs, that they are going to cause more collateral damage is there. And if you look at the type of the warfare that we are fighting, though I sometimes feel that we have gone for so long on that, that might not be congenial. But then it's a type of warfare whereby the civilian population is not completely distinct from the non-state actors, the terrorists, or by whatever name they call themselves. In fact, some of them, they wear the same clothes, you wear the same, so it's so difficult to identify. But what that calls is more planning, more deliberate action, more intelligence and verification of this intelligence to ensure that some of these actions are minimized. In certain actions or in certain operations, you cannot completely eliminate collateral damage. What you can do is to minimize it to the barest minimum. And what that takes is a lot of training, a lot of weaponry, a lot of planning, a lot of coordination between those on the ground and those in the air, and a lot of coordination even between and amongst the various actors that are on the ground to ensure that when there is intelligence, credible intelligence, that like in this case, there's an attack taking place, and there is call for reinforcement or for because that was what even the locals, because it was a bit tough for us, for the newspaper, because after this program yesterday, that was when the story of what happened in Katsina came to us. But for us to verify, it was really tough, and we wanted to be very careful. So we kept calling until we got some people from Zaka, that
where the village,
yes. Exactly, and then they also they confirmed that indeed it happened. But before the coming of the fighter jet or whatever it's been called in the military palace, the non-state actors had killed Katsina vigilantes, some policemen and all that. But we were thinking, since it was in the daylight and all that, maybe troops should go, ground troops, to go and
so the issue here is that the air power has one of its unique characteristic is speed.
Okay.
Ubiquity and the fact that it can reach where ground forces it would take. You can imagine, I don't know, I don't have much of the details on where they are based, where the attack
Well, they said, in those villages around Zakawad in Safana, right? That when the problem overwhelmed, it was during the election, when the problem overwhelmed the few security operatives there, they now refer the case to the local government. Now, by the time the enforcement from local government came, it was really a bit weak. They couldn't do much, and the insurgents, they had already left to a certain hill. That was what some locals also admitted.
Yes.
So that was why now from Katsina.
So the fact, so when you have that, for example, you could put a simulation, or you could put there's an attack here, and it takes for there to be a kind of either reinforcement or for backup and so on and so forth. It takes certain time. One advantage of air power is that within minutes it can get there. So now before people or before the attackers are able to go far away, air power is able to get them because of the elevation that it has. It's being more able to see more, and it's able to hit individual or very specific targets. Now what happens is that in that speed also comes air power's likely problem.
Exactly.
That because of the
advantage,
speed,
but then
exactly because of the speed, depending on where you're coming from, depending on if there is a clear distance between those that are the civilian targets, and remember they are not wearing uniform say that we're uniform, and so many things could have happened, and that's why it's so important. This investigation that is to be conducted, because the investigation is supposed to look at issues as they happen.
The remote
it's time to look
immediate.
at timelines, it's time to look at everything, it's time to look at judgment, even judgment, whether there's an error in judgment and so on and so forth. When these, investigations are made, then, and which the Air Force creditably always asks for. Remember the case in Sokoto.
And I wanted to actually, make reference to that, and that was the first time. I report security and all that.
Yeah.
But it was the first time I heard of secondary explosion. That, in Sokoto, the first thing we heard from the military high command was that it was non-state actors that were killed. But the governor, when there, he participated in the burial. He said, these are innocent people. Look at their families and all that. Then another version came that the insurgents, they hid bombs close to that communities. And then the air power now, destroyed that. And then from there, you have the shrapnel and all that now went and killed.
So not deliberately, not going into the details of that, which I don't have.
Yes.
But when you talk about secondary explosions, you could be that when an ordnance is dropped or something, whether it is the one from the Air Force or even from the insurgents, two things could have happened. There could be those that are deliberately timed to explode later. You have heard of instances where there's an attack, when people gather, the second explosion takes place.
It happened.
Now, there could be also that, so that could be deliberately planned and timed, delayed for that. There could be also the fact that when it's the heat or the fire that comes, there could be other incendiary, it could be, I'm not saying this is what happened in this.
Yeah, we are just assuming, trying
there
to
could be there could be other things that could explode. Remember, even as little, I wouldn't call it little, but gas, let's assume gas cylinders. could explode. There could be other explosive materials around that could trigger, could be not necessarily that first listen, but that could trigger them. Now, and that's why we say that these investigations are important, they are key. And where I want them to improve is that when these investigations are made, there should be parts or components of them that are declassified in a way that the people, because people is a matter of interest. People are interested in what happened. I mean, there is allegations that citizens were killed. It's out there in the news, both locally and internationally. When these investigations are conducted, the results or the outcomes should be made public.
And
to the extent to which that it doesn't compromise.
Yes, as you said, Wing Commander, if you check the social media now, it's like Nigerians, they are now awakened. They rarely forget. Like today now, if you check, you will see some people making reference to the air bombardment in Iran.
Yes.
How many years back? The one in a village called Buhari in Yobe, the Tudumbiri. People are just giving that what happened to investigation around about that one, what happened to this one, what happened to this one. The military is silent. And I think this can erode confidence. So
the truth is that the internet is very unforgiving. What we do today is going to be here. It will be here for generations to come. Our children are going to Google and find our names and so on. And so sometimes we operate, the military by nature is a very conservative institution. And you can understand because of its issues of life and death. It's issue of trying to prevent information from getting to wrong hands, information management and so on and so on. All those are very important. Now, however, we have to strike a balance between what needs to be kept secret and what needs to get filtered out to the public. Because just like you said, because the internet does not forget, people can remember what happened in Iran, people can remember what happened up to the incidents in Tudumburi and the last one in Sokoto. So once they keep hearing that there is investigations or board or committee or so on that is going to be set up to investigate this, people keep asking now, where are the outcomes? And I tell you, those of us that know, we know that there are outcomes, there are changes that are made, and based on what is discovered, there are a lot of trainings and retraining that are done.
Only that it's not being made public.
It's not being made public.
So that component of making some of these things public should be imbibed by
it must be imbibed because, because
as we
that's the only thing we
wrap up, do you think that we really need air components, or we need to beef up our foot on the ground so that we can reduce this tendency of having civilian casualties?
Well, you can't win a war without the air component. Perhaps maybe
that is your area.
Yes, but since the beginning of air power, it has shown that the air power is a game changer. It's an enabler, it's a force multiplier, and it ensures that you win the war. Now, what happens, but of course, air power cannot replace the ground troops. That is very important.
It only complements.
It complements, it's a complementary force.
But it's like we are surrendering now in Nigeria.
No, what happens is that the use of air power must be very decisive, must be very deliberate. It must be very coordinated with the ground troops. It must be coordinated, it must be based on intelligence, credible intelligence, and real-time intelligence. Because air power, because of all those factors, the lethality, the speed, and so on and so forth, the intelligence that must be fed to make air power effective must be credible, must be factual, must be up to time, must be timely, must be as you move. Because this is air power, this is the target. Even as you come or the pilot flies by to engage the target, that information must be correct at that moment. And when there is change in information, where there is uncertainty, the pilot is told to withdraw.
Very serious. We hope we get it right.
We will get it right.
We've been with this insecurity for nearly 2 decades now.
We will get it right. And once the vigilance of everyday citizens is very important, just like we're doing, to ensure that everybody is held accountable. Accountability is key. And I'm sure the military is also responding to those questions. There is responding to that accountability.
All right, thank you very much, Wing Commander Dr. Musa Salmanu, for
thank you so
shedding
much.
light on this very serious and technical aspect of operations around the insurgency in the Northwest.
Thank you for having me.
We hope to have you some other time.
Thank you very much.
And viewers, that's a wrap on this package. We hope you found the conversation engaging and informative. Be sure to join Daily Politics, airing every weekday, and our special packages on Friday and Sunday, during which we open the telephone line for you to comment on national issues. Bye-bye from here. I'm Hamza Idris.